Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz saxophonist T.K. on the 2023 album Tide of Love. The decorated and esteemed veteran alto saxophonist and flautist releases this new album of melodic, romantic music that always creates a hypnotic and memorable musical experience. Joining him on the album is vibraphonist Stefon Harris and pianist James Weidman. And it is now finally seeing the light of day after 2 decades. We get into this album, surviving the pandemic, live shows, the strength of jazz in 2023, and so much more. Enjoy.
Fine.
Oh, wonderful. Well, how you doing? Okay?
I'm wondering. Yeah, everything's good, man. It's great to catch back up with you. How you doing today?
Good. Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. And it's great to hear your voice. It's been a minute. I think last time we spoke was got to be about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Before everything got goofy with the pandemic.
Right, exactly.
Thank you very much for taking a minute out today. And I want to begin everything with kind of what we touched on. You know, the last time we spoke was prior to the pandemic. Now it's been 3.5 years or so since. How did you survive that time period, and how has it changed you now that we're coming out of it?
What you have to do in scenarios like that is you find alternative ways and means of connecting with musicians, of being able to play, practice, keep your musical integrity. For example, during the pandemic, a good friend of mine, bassist Santi DiBriano, he started having sessions at his house. You know, we would get a bunch of guys, so everybody would make sure that you were non-infected. And he had stuff in this place out in Staten Island, but it was a music room that was open, so I mean there was a lot of airflow. So we were able to get together and just play, which was great. And out of that actually came a recording. We did a recording called Ashanti on JoJo Records that was recorded about a year ago. But that came out of the pandemic. You find different things like that, jam, kazam, different things technically speaking with the computer where you can connect with folks and perform together. I did some of that using different technologies. One was jam kazam. The other thing is you wind up doing a lot of online, a lot of things, which wasn't my cup of tea. I'd rather play for people, but unfortunately during the pandemic I did a lot of performances with no audience, just the camera, where we had to perform live stream. So, those are all of the different things that you do to weather the storm and get through that period. It had a lot of adversity because, as you know, we couldn't get together physically with many artists. So I think that's kind of what I did anyway. And plus I have a strong work ethic and practice discipline and regimen. So, practice is definitely helpful to keep your chops up. It's not as good as performing. Performing is the ultimate. Gig chops are different from practice chops, but practice chops, it beats a blank. If you don't have any gigs, you got to practice, because if you're not practicing, you're not going to be in the game, when gigs come up. So that's kind of the way I dealt with it.
So the one good thing that's been an outgrowth of all of this is that there's been new material that's been released. You have a brand new album. How relieving does it feel to have a new album, new material out right now?
Well, it feels great, of course. And one of the things I want to put a footnote by is that this recording on Arcadia Records, The Tide of Love, which was produced by Bob Carsey, fantastic, one of my favorite records of all time. But it was recorded many years ago. It was recorded, I think, 2001. It came right before. It was a tricky time because it came. The recording happened, I think, after right before 9/11, and then that between 9/11 and the way things started changing rapidly in the recording world of records. Things changed very, very rapidly. We went from a scenario where you got paid to do a record, you made money from the record, you made money from the royalties of the record sale, you made money from your publishing, and stuff, and all of that stuff dried up in very, very quickly with the advent of technology, Spotify, all the streaming outlets that are available now where people can listen to your music for free. And so I think a combination of many things made Arcadia go in a different direction, and in fact kind of pull up their coattails and just kind of wait and see what's going to happen, which is understandable. You're in a business to make money, to survive, and then all the avenues that were available before are now dried up. You have to take a re-evaluation. So it was understandable that the recording didn't come out when it was recorded. But to my utter fortune, Bob stayed with it, and he decided a couple of years ago to start releasing material on the digital platform. So he went back and started releasing some of my old recordings that I did on Arcadia. 99, I did Another Blue. 2000, I did Eyes of the Elders. And then an alternate take of Eyes of the Elders came out digitally called Wise Eyes of the Elders. And in the interim of all of that, he decided to put out The Tide of Love, which had never been released before. So for me, it was like finding money. You leave money in your coat pocket, and put that coat on for a couple of years, and all of a sudden you reach it and say, man, it's $100, man, So that's what it was like, when this recording came out. I'm very, very happy that it came out, and it's we got down to as high as number 11 on the charts, and it's just the vibe on the recording is just so beautiful and peaceful and tranquil. Kind of what it was when we did the record 21 years ago. So I'm very, very pleased and happy that it came out, and we were able to get some more mileage out of it.
And I guess that's the thing, since this was recorded so long ago, when you look at your career now and think back to when you made this, what do you see as far as kind of your evolution, or how nostalgic is it to hear these sounds coming out so far into now?
Yeah, well, very nostalgic. Stefon Harris, I don't get the chance to perform with him quite much these days, but back then we did quite a few things together in terms of, we did some gigs, and also he's on a couple of other recordings of mine on Eyes of the Elders. So very nostalgic in that regard. But in terms of my musical growth and evolution, yes, I'm into another chapter right now. In fact, I have a whole new recording that Bob is co-producer on, and it will come out next year for sure. It's called Planet Blue, and that's spelled BLUU, Planet Blue. And it's just a dream that I had of a planet that where there was no COVID, there was no police brutality, there was no discrimination, there was no exchange of money. You exchange services, you have reverence for the elders. It's ideal utopia world, and it's a dream. And I wrote all original tunes, except for maybe there's two that one by Hale Smith and one by Randy Weston, but all the other songs are original. And features a lot of the younger generation on the scene today. The son of Steve Teray is on drums, Orion. The son of Mark Woodfield, Davis Woodfield, is on piano. The nephew of Philip and Willard Harper is Deshaun Harper on bass. The son of Jerry Allen and Wallace Roney, Wallace Jr., he's on trumpet. And then we had special guest Steve Teray played a couple of tunes, and also Dave Kukowski. So that kind of music, and I'm playing the kalimbas and a lot of original compositions that I composed. Yeah, that's kind of more in line with what I'm doing now, 20 years later from, say, when we first recorded Tide. Although even back when we recorded Tide, I was doing quite a bit of writing then as well, But I think now going forward, I'm gonna be concentrating more on the newer music that I'm doing, and not so much on the standards. Although Bob has mentioned, we found some alternate takes to Tide, so that might be interesting to hear or even release that material. So I think it's all good. And it's all a positive evolution in my career, in terms of where I'm going now.
So with The Tide of Love, I'm curious, what are you hoping ultimately that the listener gets from this album?
Well, I think the main thing would be some tranquility, just some beauty that they can just kick back and take off your shoes, put your feet up, and just have a glass of wine and just listen. Maybe you had a hard day, maybe you had a hectic day, maybe you had some negativity you had to deal with, but this music now will help you to cool out. And it's just a recording of a love song. So it's all about love, and I feel very strongly about that. I think if we had more love on the planet, we'd have less wars that we're dealing with right now. So love is a huge factor. Love and forgiveness, those two things, my mom taught me from quite young, were two of the greatest attributes that any human being can hope to ingrain and really instill in their heart. Love and forgiveness on all levels. And when you embrace these things in a non-discriminatory fashion, miracles begin to happen. So I think that's what I'm hoping for anyway. So I hope folks that listen to this recording feel better than before they listen to it, and come away with a feeling of love and feeling of positive energy, positive vibrations, which is what we need so desperately now on this planet. Our planet is so fragile, and we're fighting many wars on different fronts, economically, physically, spiritually. There's so many different conflicts that are transpiring all across the globe. So I think now more than ever, musicians and artists, we have to come forth with music and whatever discipline you are in terms of an artist, to bring about visions of peace and love and harmony, to change the script right now, and take the focus off of this negativity and try to put it on more positive things. That's my feeling.
And the one thing about this, by putting positive energy out there, is that returning to the live stage has to be very special. Do you still feel that that charge in the crowd, that reinvigoration?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. We just had a beautiful 3-night engagement a week ago at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola at Jazz and Lincoln Center, where we honored Randy Weston. And we had 2 sets a night, and it was absolutely fantastic. To hear the energy. Because, music is deeply spiritual, and it relies on the participation of those who come. So, like in traditional African societies, for example, you don't have audience and musicians. Everybody's a musician. So you have gatherings of musical expression. Everybody partakes in the musical dialogue, whether it's clapping, singing, shouting, dancing. Nobody's just sitting there listening. That's a Western concept of music. African concept is all participants are involved, and that's a great thing when you play for live people as opposed to playing for a live stream or camera. Because when you play for live people, you get people screaming, you get the energy, you get people applauding, and they give you back the beautiful energy that you're giving off when you perform. And I think it's healing. It's quite healing for me as an artist, and I'm sure it's healing for the listener as well.
The one thing that was a fear when all of this was happening, the pandemic, and not knowing when things were going to end and how it progressed, was a lot of cats were moving from big cities, and there was a lot of fear that younger players may not come back, but it seems like it's stronger than ever. What's your take on kind of the global jazz community right now?
Well, I can only speak predominantly on a major center of the jazz community, which is New York. And it appears, from my experiences, to be quite healthy. Everywhere that I've been performing, whether it's a small venue, whether it's a big venue, outdoor venue, has been well attended, and the energy has been beautiful. The exchange has been beautiful. The only thing that is tricky now in terms of for artists is how do you disseminate your music, because folks rarely, if ever, even buy CDs anymore, nor downloads. It seems like streaming and LPs to some degree, although they're not as compatible to carry and travel with, etc. But LPs seem to be making little inroads. But for the most part, I think the biggest detriment that's still lingering right now, which goes back to earlier in our conversation today when I mentioned about after Tide had been recorded, how things change. And right now, still, we haven't really found that footing that where musicians can actually make money from their recordings. It's just those kind of things that was a granted, that was a given, say 20 years ago, is no longer the case. And quite well-known artists are financing their own recordings. They're producing their own recordings. There's not people coming in to say, "Hey, I'm going to record you," because again, it goes back to business model. It's not a good business sense to spend money when you know you're not going to get it back. So you have to ask yourself as a business person, why do I make this investment? Because if it's not coming back monetarily, and maybe there's some other reasons. There's a sure enough million reasons for artists to make investment in themselves. You definitely have to. That goes without saying. But for other people to make that financial investment in you, that's a different story. And that takes I guess a more detailed involved relationship that the artists will need to have with a person who's producing them or trying to foster a greater sense of awareness of this particular artist. So, but that's the only thing I think right now that I think is still tricky, is how do you make money from your music, original music? How do you get it out there without spending thousands and thousands of dollars? Because that's where it goes right now today, to get a recording out from A to Z, from the time of inception of the idea to the execution, where you have a finished CD or whether it's a download, whatever the case may be. It's a lot of money involved, and not most of it doesn't come back. So those are the obstacles we have to face with today. But as far as the scene, musically, I think it's quite healthy. A lot of young players on the scene today. Even at Disney's, it was quite remarkable and enjoyable to hear the after-hour groups that played after my band. A lot of young musicians, and they all can play very, very well. So I think the music is in definitely healthy hands, and I think there are a lot of young players too who have some great ideas, who want to take it to another level, which I think is going to happen, which would be fantastic. So I think the future is bright. I think the future is definitely bright, despite all of the apparent obstacles that we have.
I agree, and I think that's just kind of the tenor and form of the jazz community, is that it's always strong, it's always resilient. And speaking of of the economics of making an album, where is the best place for anybody to pick up the latest album or any of your previous work, and to find out about any live shows that come out and support you?
Yeah, I would go to my website, www.tkblue.com. You can order recordings on there. You can also go to Bandcamp, has a lot of my music. All of the major outlets, you can go download, streaming, and all of those outlets. But if you want a physical CD, you could go to my website or to Bandcamp. And Bandcamp also sells digital downloads as well. So I've been getting a few sales that way. But I think that's the best way to go. Yeah, to the website or to Bandcamp.
Wonderful. TK, it's always so good to catch up with you. Thank you for opening up about Tide of Love. Good luck with everything as we move forward, and I'm sure we'll run into each other again, so thank you, sir.
Yeah, I hope so, man, and thank you for your time, and for the good, like I said, good things on the horizon. Looking forward to 2024 with the release of Planet Blue, and we're just going to keep plugging away, so God bless you, and thank you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to TK for his time, energy, and cool, and always coming back to Neon Jazz. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.